If you're an autism parent who's ever felt completely alone on the bathroom floor at 2 a.m., wondering how you're going to get through the next day, the next meltdown, the next hard conversation with a doctor, then this episode is for you. Today, I'm so excited to talk with Sarah Kernion, founder of INCHSTONES and mom to Millie and Mac, both of whom live with profound non-speaking autism. Sarah takes us all the way back to the moment that she knew something was different, a family photo shoot in the woods that changed everything, through the diagnosis to the mantra that got her off that bathroom floor, the next loving, responsible thing. We talk about co-regulation, presuming competence, whole body apraxia, why she skipped traditional speech therapy for music therapy, and why letting go of the timeline might be the most powerful thing a parent can do. If you need permission to trust yourself as the expert on your own child, stay with us. Sarah, thank you so much for joining me on my podcast. Now, as I was mentioning just before we started to press play, record, we know each other just from a couple of projects that we're working together on. But the really cool thing, and this is what I'm looking forward to, is that I actually don't know your story as an autism mom. So that is what I really want to hear about. I'm not going to read off, this whole bio. I want you, Sarah, to join and just let us know where are you at and what has it brought, to you for your life as a mom and then to this point today. So welcome and thank you again.
Oh, Dana, thank you so much for having me. These conversations light me up. I have been someone, I think when I boil it down, one-on-one conversations are the fuel through which I get the most energy. So thank you for having me and sharing here today. What is my story? Yeah, if you look back from years, 0 to 28, I had the very typical classic expectations all met life. I was a leader, in high school and in college. I was a double major. I'm the oldest child of 3 kids. My parents are college sweethearts. For all intents and purposes, when you look up, go-getter and accomplished young woman, I was the face of that. And I took great pride in that. I moved to New York after I graduated college, and I had my first child living in the Upper West Side, spitting distance from Central Park. And something in me always knew there was a greater purpose to motherhood than what that first experience in having my oldest was. And I went on to have 2 more children, as you know, Millie and Mac. And as a mother, before having Millie, my first child with profound non-speaking autism, and then subsequently having my third child, Mac, that also has the same diagnosis, before I even had Millie, and this is in 2015, I was very stern about going into second-time motherhood, thinking, do not compare your first child to your second. This is going to be a wildly different experience. And I love learning about internal family systems. So I thought to myself, this child actually isn't coming into the same family as my oldest child did. And I really took that to heart. So in a lot of ways, I allowed for the fluidity of the second child coming into my life as a mother very differently than I did my first, which was probably a blessing and a curse because I wasn't as hell-bent on the specifics, the routine, the developmental patterns. And at some point around 9, 10, 11 months of Millie, I could not get this gut feeling away. I couldn't push it down. And I went to the pediatrician around a year old and said, something's not sitting right here. And I got the very typical, she's a girl. She is wildly attached to you. She makes great eye contact. You are a nervous Nelson. You've got generalized anxiety. And this is sort of what happens. So you're going to need to, come back in a few months. And it would not go away. And right around Millie was 18 months old, there was a classic family photo shoot in the middle of the woods, all dressed up. And the photographer, I perfectly planned it, golden hour, 4:00. And it was at a park that was unfamiliar to us. And Millie had had her nap. She had had a snack afterwards. And when I tell you that she was completely unconsolable on a beautifully lit wooded path when her sister, her, four and a half, 5-year-old sister is bounding on the tree trunks, twirling in her tulle skirt, wanting her sister to join her. And I knew so clearly that was like the first sliver of my glimpse into my life is taking a 180 right now.
Mhm.
And of those photos, I have some in color. I almost couldn't keep them in color because the only ones that did not show her face so splotchy from such dysregulation were in black and white. And it was around that was around the holidays of 2016. And in 2017, in January, I got pregnant with my son, Mac. And I got through the holidays thinking, let's do early intervention. Let's take this paper that they gave me and tackle it. Let's get through the holidays. And that began my absolute wild and long ride into getting Millie a diagnosis. She ended up receiving the first solidified diagnosis in late October of 2017, just 7 days after my son Mac was born. And that is the beginning. That was the beginning. And I can tell you that it created such a both swirl and a rooted planting of me from a sense of there actually is no farther to go down right now. I was on the bathroom floor. I have a newborn who's I'm so cued into at this point is showing very, very, very early signs. And I've got a 5-year-old in Montessori school and a 2.5-year-old who can't even stack a Duplo block. So it was a planting for me. And I took that ground zero and knew that I could make this into a very fulfilling, faithfully serving life, or it's going to eat me alive.
Yeah. How did you get from, like you said, the very bottom,
Mm-hmm.
and how did you get up? What were those things that you remember that helped you to get up from that place?
I, for all intents and purposes, was a single mom. I am divorced from my children's father, but I say that in that I was in the home solo. And I had many moments where the clock was ticking or my phone was ticking by. And it was much more before even the term INCHSTONES sort of came to me. But I thought I have to just do the next loving and responsible thing without any expectation of the fruit of this labor giving me anything. And there were moments where, I found on a walk the sun beating down on Millie or Mac. And I kept thinking to myself, the only thing I have to do right now is the next loving and responsible thing. And I talk about this a lot on my own podcast that this world is so obsessed with the power of now, right? Like the Eckhart Tolle and all these things about leaning into the moment. Let me tell you what brings you into the moment. Having 2 children with profound unspeaking autism. I mean, the irony is that the pain and the suffering of that reality is actually what will bring you into being your most present self. So that's what I hung on to and it was honestly, that was almost my mantra was like, next loving thing, the next loving thing to do. They're happy, they're healthy, they're well cared for. And what's the next loving thing to do? And that again began this journey of radically being open about this life. And I was not doing Instagram or social media for anything more than realizing that I was bucking the trend of allowing this to sink me.
Yeah.
And I've had the naysayers say, it's toxic positivity or a delusional optimist. It wasn't that for me. It was saying it's all yes and. And as someone who, ever since I was a teenager, held deep complexities and nuances about life and love and one's path and where life is going to take you, it was almost like, yeah, then this is where you're going to shine in that because you're going to be able to say the really tough things, not shy away from sharing the reality, but also reminding people that there is such beauty in the present moment of this. So I started sharing. I started sharing our story online on Instagram, and it became a way, I think, for people to go, oh, I guess I could live it like this too.
Absolutely. And I think, I see that more and more, which I love because I work with these families who you could just see the loneliness, I feel so alone, even though I may have a supportive spouse, right? Or significant other,
Yes.
or I may have supported family, but it is just this. And I don't know what that's like, but I can't even describe it sometimes, but it's there. And so I think seeing you for the first time on social media, just because this is, with my world too, with working with families, I just so appreciate that, where then I even refer and say, hey, I know social media, it might be something you love. It's a love to hate kind of thing, but you, Sarah, are helping these families who you don't even know, right? And I know
Right.
people tell you that, and I've mentioned that, but it's so important. And so I think maybe tell me a little bit about, Instagram being that for you, but what about your community? What about your village? Like, what did that or didn't that look like?
I remember thinking again, when Millie was in those toddler years and the early intervention, the ABA preschool, which I have spoken ad nauseum locally. I had the most wonderful, like holistic child aid, but alongside ABA preschool. And I don't shy away from the positives of both aspects. But what I believe to be true is that I found, and I know that this will resonate with you, very quickly, and I didn't name it at first, that you had to have the co-regulatory support of every person that was on your team that you were building for your child. So it wasn't just what was best for Millie to grow and develop on her own timeline. It was, how does that person relate on the team that I'm growing for her and co-regulating so that I'm learning from that as well? Because if I've seen any scientific data that can prove this, it's like my own lifestyle and my own life is when I choose the things that best co-regulate Millie, and for her, it was music very, very early on. Music therapy was honestly the first private therapy that I put her in. And that is a controversial thing for a lot of autism families at first. You're like, you didn't go to 5 times a week speech? Nope. Because guess what was bringing those words out for her? Music. And I knew it, and it became, so we had this phenomenal, she's a wonderful woman named Jammin' Jen. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her. She's local. Oh yeah, Jammin' Jen was Millie's first music therapist. She lives literally spitting distance from me. And Jen was the one who elicited Millie's first word, which was apple. And, my children eat a bushel a week. So that to me proved that connection has to happen through co-regulation for these kids. And that is where I believe that the community for me, it was like baked into every choice that I made.
Yeah, it's so important. And like you said, we've spoken about that, but even just amongst ourselves, as humans, and the dysregulation and stress and anxiety that now, our world seems to be holding on to so much more is affecting all of our relationships. And knowing that our kids, your kids, the other kids that I work with are so in tune to other people's regulation and how important that is. And I'm with you. Like, it doesn't matter the therapy. And in fact, I saw something posted on social media, another parent where it was like, same as you, we didn't do speech therapy. We focused on movement.
Yes.
Because movement, that's speech. Speech is movement.
Yes.
And so if we can, address it in a different way. And I'm so thankful for all the parents that are just speaking out about that, because there isn't one way. There isn't one way. And like you said, and some of my clients, ABA has been very helpful, and others, no, it hasn't. And that's
okay. I always say, like, I'm sure I've spoken to you directly about this, but I do a lot of speaking on panels, about caregiving and autism, or just women's health conferences. And this one panel that I spoke on recently, this woman, she was an autism mom, and it was this big crowd. And she said, I really want to try chiropractic care for my son. I just feel it really helped me. And And she said, what do you think? And she could tell she was just like looking for me to go, it's going to work. It's going to be this. It's going to give you this. And I said, Mom, if you believe deeply that this could benefit your son through whatever touch, alignment, attenuation to them is, do it. There's nothing that is wrong about that. Yeah. And I feel like it's my job in this space as a mother, like that's trying to be a leader in this space, is to remind people of that power they have. Try it. I can never answer that for you and your child, but I hope I can remind you that you get to try that and get to see the power in your choice, because you will only one that knows best. You know?
And we so need more moms like you speaking out like that, because of what I was like as a professional way back when, before I had the opportunity to work with my amazing families. It was, it was even ingrained in me as a professional going through my training that you are the expert. Like that's, you literally walk out believing that. And sure, I know a lot about autism and various topics, but you as a parent are the expert in your child. So we have to be able to take what Mom, and go, okay, how can we then shift this into something that is going to work best for your child's individual differences? That's the thing. And I think just going through the motions, and I kind of want to pivot a little bit to helping the parents here who would be listening, because part of what I want to do on this podcast is be able to hear stories like yours, Sarah, coming in, but then also, what did you do? Let's empower the other parents who may be struggling with working with professionals that aren't listening, that aren't, supporting what they may want. How do we move the needle forward with parents being the driver, essentially, of their child's team?
I mean, gosh, it does come down to what I know you'd agree with, is that the parent has to be regulated enough themselves to accept the chaos of what is going to be that long road ahead of whatever therapy you try, or have the capacity to pivot and reorient. That takes a lot of wherewithal, and it takes a lot of inner work and peace and acknowledgement of your own nervous system challenges to work through. And I'm not sure there's a specific answer as to like how the practitioners would do that, but I do think that offering up ways that the parent can meet their child or like you said, offering up, hey, have you checked out this account? Have you ever read this book? I think that the earlier on we can get the parent regulated, the better the journey is. And I don't know if there's a specific way to do that for every single mother and caregiver. I think you have to be someone who is radically honest about what your needs are. I'm someone who needs a solid hour in the morning before the kids get up to journal, watercolor, have my coffee, because that little 8.5-year-old boy of mine, his door's going to be jingling, and it's going to be, 0 to Tarzan, as I say. Like, it's like 0 to 100, 0 to Tarzan. And he wants me in there with him. And I think that resilience comes and nervous system regulation comes from pushing through and doing the disciplined, hard thing, moving past resistance of your own self-care. Because I am not a morning person. I am a sleeper. If I could sleep 12 hours a night, I would. Like I've always been a sleeper. I think I use a lot of energy during the day. And if I didn't get up super early to carve that out, I would be a really dysregulated parent from the second that my children were up. And I think we need to just remind parents that what's going to work for you to regulate is not going to be what works for everyone. Trust me. Like, my neighbor down the street that has an autistic son laughs at me. She's like, how's your watercoloring going? And I'm like, you know what, Amy? It's going great. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And like it truly becomes something that you have to own.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough to have parents that really modeled that to me. So I know that was also a gift, is that my parents are, exercise fiends and very independent individuals. So they modeled the need for their own regulation too. So
Yeah.
look to people that can model that for you.
That's so important. The self-care. And, I say in a lot of my posts on social media and YouTube and even talking with parents, it's like your self-care is your child's self-care.
Yeah.
And I think it is just so hard to kind of come to that realization because, I mean, the parents that I work with, the moms that I work with are so driven to do whatever is best for their child. And they will stop at absolutely nothing, which I admire so much.
Yeah.
I sit back and I'm just like, wow. But when that conversation comes up, if I'm talking with them about their own self-care, it's almost like we have been told that that isn't acceptable, right? And just even in general, or self-care, depending on who you're talking with, it's like, but on one hand, we have to perform, or on one hand, we have to be there for our kids. And if I stop, then I'm failing them. And then on the other hand, we have people saying, oh, you need to, go for a walk and that's not feasible for everybody. So to your point, it's finding that whatever it is for you to be able to get to that place.
And to really utilize the fact that I know it sounds so silly, but bare feet out in the lawn for 2 minutes. I know it sounds ridiculous, but breathing for
but
2
it's amazing.
minutes, it's unbelievable. And I've had some really difficult doctor's appointments recently for both of my kids that were very sobering, and actually had a neurologist look at me and said, "You're gonna burn out if you do not radically take care of yourself." And he wasn't saying that I was, or looking at me like I was, but it was a reminder from someone outside that I've been doing this dance, as an autism mom for almost 11 years now. That's a long time. And it does sometimes, even in the harsh sort of clinical sense of a clinician, specialist looking at a parent saying that, it was a reminder to me. It was a tough reminder, but it was a reminder. And I think that those reminders can come in the form of other parents, but it's tough love is also appreciated too, because we are only one human.
Right.
And your body and mind work together. And one is going to take the lead. And sometimes that's the body and sometimes that's the mind. And you got to find that balance.
Yeah, absolutely. So in your journey, as an autism mom of two, Mac and Millie, I love those names, by the way.
Thanks.
Tell me a little bit more, because right, with me talking about whole body apraxia, and that wasn't way back when you had your diagnosis, when I was, starting into this journey. Whole body apraxia, presuming competence, like I was not taught either of those in my professional training. So can you talk to us a little bit about how did you get to that point of presuming competence, and also, just understanding whole body apraxia, and what did that do in terms of your mindset, and especially thinking about way back when they were diagnosed until now? And I know there's been a shift, like a significant shift for you guys.
Oh yeah. I leaned into something very early on because after getting like those audiology tests and ruling out the fact that they did not have any hearing loss at all, I'm a very, verbal, just human, and I'm a talker and I'm a conversationalist. And when I realized that my children's receptive language is 100%, I never stopped talking to them as if they completely understood everything I was saying. So even when, they were much, much younger, continuing to do the things like, come on, guys, let's go, feet in the shoes. They're not putting their feet in the shoes. They're not getting their shoes. They're not grabbing their coat. But I was still talking to them as if we were going to do that. That didn't mean I wasn't obviously completely supporting that behavior. But it does create what I know to be true is these neurological pathways of understanding. They have amazing skills now. It just still takes a lot of input from me to do that. And I think I commented on one of your posts recently about the co-regulation and the need for support, and how both of my kids still need help putting on their shoes. But now it's just like an ankle touch. Yeah. All right, come on, put in. Let's go, put in. Zip up the coat. I know you can do it. Come on, let's go. And I talk to them also that's very age specific. I don't
Mhm.
feel like I talk to them like they're toddlers anymore. And I do a lot of correcting sometimes with family members who are like treating them as if they're toddlers still. They're not. I've got an 11-year-old who's the middle child, who's a non-speaker, and sister is the middle child. She is
Yeah.
annoyed. She is frustrated at her brother and sister, whether they're typical or her, fellow non-speaking brother. So
Yeah.
that to me became, Sarah, don't change who you are. Adapt to the situation. Treat them exactly like as they are as they're aging, which you did for your oldest, and modify your support and what that looks
Mhm.
like. And I think if you would see, I always say if you put a camera crew on me for 30 days, you wouldn't see a mom that's all that different than another mom of 3 kids. I'm just much more present physically to
Mhm.
aid in their living. When again, in the co-regulation part about that is so key, because I know my son specifically, he seeks me out so deeply to co-regulate. And whether that's just him in the morning watching, Daniel Tiger and a funny episode comes on, he wants that shared connection. So I do believe that the earlier on, even as hard as it is in the sort of trenches of accepting the reality of this lifelong diagnosis, you can do small things to just stay in the moment with them, because I have such deep, deep, deep belief that they want that connection so much. And in having 2 children who present so differently, they both do it. And I think it's one of the reasons why I can sort of sit in a space of mastery in this, because I'm going, I don't just have one, I've got 2, and I see a girl and a boy do this differently, and they seek it out, they desire it, and they are so capable. They're so capable.
Yeah. And that's what it's so interesting, in hearing your story with what you chose to do as far as therapies and
Mm-hmm.
interventions and that route. And, because when working with families, I have families that have done all of it, none of it, and
Mm-hmm.
everything in between, alternative, biomedical, traditional, more of the
Mm-hmm.
speech, the OT. And and the thing is like, it's every single child or adult that I work with, for that matter, is so different. Their
Mm-hmm.
profile is so different. But what you said it when you were talking about this, what I notice that is common is that there is connection,
Yes.
and they want connection. And that's where myself, as a professional being educated, was steered in the other direction. It was
Mm-hmm.
that, autism, they like to be on their own. They don't like social interaction.
Right. It's
They avoid,
so,
it's like all these things. And I'm like, but wait, did you see that?
and
Or
they
did you
also
see
have
this?
I also say, like, they have an inner conscious choice about what connection might mean to them too. My
Mhm.
children are both at the same school, right? They're in a beautifully wonderful, holistic, amazing program. My son's birthday in October, I said to Millie's teacher, bring her on down for his little celebration. Millie wanted a cupcake and to get the heck out of there with her books. She
Yeah.
went and found the book corner. She looked over at me. I go, do you want to say happy birthday to your brother? She like grabbed the
Like,
cupcake and grabbed her teacher's hand and left. And I
yeah.
go, honestly, how typical was that? She's like, I don't
Exactly.
want to be at my brother's birthday party.
Right.
But I, as
Right.
a mother, thought, oh, I'll get my kids together. So connection doesn't have to be on top of each other, like forced
Yes.
family
Yes.
activity.
Yes.
Connection can be listening in every single different way that's not with your ears, going, all right, see you, Mills. Have a good time back up in class.
Exactly. And we would do the exact same thing. Give her the
That's
opportunity,
right.
because we don't want to not include her.
Exactly.
Right. And then, okay, no big deal. Because I think that one of the things that I learned early on working in this, like with all of my clients, is that what we perceive as appropriate social interaction is
Mm-hmm.
like the furthest thing from what they want to do. And, as you know, many of my clients will spell or type as
Mm-hmm.
their way to communicate. And they'll talk about like, that was the best party ever. And it was like, but you were in the other room the whole time on your own,
No.
right? Like, who am I to say? And I think, again, that's that drilled into us. This is what it has to look like.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if we can get back to, and you correct me if I'm wrong, get back to what you said as far as just like any other kid, any other sibling, like
Mm-hmm.
that's how we have to really think about this. We don't necessarily, yes, they're going to have and need different supports and additional supports, But as far as interacting and expectations and all those things, like it's not as different as I think
That's
parents have
right.
been led to believe.
Well, and I think there's a lot of created pain and suffering because I think at the end of the day, listen, I mean, if to be very real, I likely will have 2 children living with me through the rest of my life or in some
Mhm.
sort of residential housing. That's the truth. That is a
Mhm.
very, very hard fact to sit in as a parent. And I think sometimes if that overshadows everything, you will never get to experience the beauty of the actual life and what they're actually experiencing. And if they're actually at a party in their cousin's bedroom, flipping through books, and every so often someone goes, "Has anyone seen Millie? Oh, she's upstairs reading. Mills, you you just allow for that to be their experience and not have the hairpin turn sending you down the trajectory of, but she's going to be living with me for the rest of my life.
Mhm.
Because that's
Mhm.
what I hear. I think that it's unspoken a lot. I think it's this
Yeah.
baked into the community, which I think unfortunately permeates a lot of unnecessary grief.
Mhm.
And, and I deeply believe you can acknowledge it, but not let it become the film that leads your life.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think that to add to it from the, professional perspective, right? My perspective of it is that when we're working with an individual, child, adult, we have to have goals. And so these goals,
Mhm.
like everything is like driven to this goal. And so in therapy, and then parents are led to be like, okay, we got to see progress, like progress, progress, progress. And oh man, they're not meeting their goals. Like
Mhm.
it's always this kind of forward thinking. And what
Mhm.
I think I hear you say is, yes, there's a time and a place to kind of plan and to think about and not, oh yeah, I'm not thinking about that for the rest of my life, but be in the moment and
Mhm.
it's really important to step back for a little bit and go, is this amount of therapy or is this intensity that I'm working at necessary? And
Necessary.
that's a that's up to the family, but is it? Like really stop and think
Mhm.
about that, because I've met and worked with so many families that have pulled back and seen really great
I know.
things,
Yeah,
right?
I my most recent example, um, Millie had not been fully toilet trained up until really almost a few weeks ago, and a few months ago, I thought we're gonna really have to go because I mean, this is now I'm talking 8 years of potty training. I mean, when people hear that, typical moms are like, "What?" And I'm thinking, yeah, I mean, the number of hours I've sat caged into a bathroom just waiting for her to go. I mean, it's just, it's such a unique experience, right? Something just happened and it just clicked. It just clicked for her.
Mhm,
I don't know what happened.
mhm.
I don't know what it was. I could not tell you what. And yes, I've had some house renovations happening and the new bathroom was put together. And I thought I heard my oldest and it was Millie. And I was in there, I go, oh, well, look at you. And she like looks over, like pulls up her pants and goes, I'm like, it's
Yeah,
all going to happen. It's just that when you have a bottleneck chokehold on what the timeline
yeah,
should be, you are going to waste so much energy.
yeah.
And I'm
Yes.
learning it through myself. And you're going to have to learn it yourself as a parent too. But
Mm,
to take in the stories, I feel better now knowing that one of the major things that I was hoping for Millie, which was this independent toileting, has come. That
yeah,
is like, and I now have much more faithful hopes and maybe consolidated dreams over anything else that's coming down the pipeline for
mhm,
her now.
mhm.
Because when that sort of went, I was like, oh, I finally let go of that and look what happened.
So
So,
interesting because it made me think about, um, I've been involved in different panels
mhm.
of non-speakers and, their spelling or typing. And one of the questions that they often get, or parents will get, so sometimes, obviously if the parent is the communication partner and there's another parent in the audience and it's like, so parent to parent, how did you get to be where you could fluently, openly be able to communicate with, and you being the communication partner for your child?
Mm-hmm.
And every single time, every parent will say, when I finally let go of willing it, like willing it. And that
Like,
always has stuck with me because
mm-hmm.
I don't know what that's like, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I understand the intensity that parents want something so badly, but it's just interesting to me. And then hearing you say that exact thing, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay.
It is. I don't know how to explain it. I do think, though, that every great culture in this world, diagnosis or not, talks about that.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, once you sort of loosen your grip on the fruit that's supposed to be coming from all this labor, it ends up coming to you in a way that is so much more open and relaxing. And the irony, and I always say these kids, they're more deeply feeling than anyone ever gives them credit for. That the look on Millie's face in the past few days on this and kind of championing her with this toileting, like, she's almost looking at me like, Mom, I was gonna get there. Like, you have little faith. Like, stop. And she just kind of walks off and I go, it's just, that's classic Millie. That is classic Millie. And I guarantee you, my son, who is such a baby and such the baby of the family and mama's boy, I'm gonna guess that when that happens for him, he's gonna want a lot more celebration because he likes the attention.
Right.
He likes the attention.
And it just shows their personalities.
Exactly.
And how different they are. And, and how, as a parent, I would imagine that you treat them very similarly, but you also have individual relationships with each of them.
And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of, questions around always the typical sibling and how they are in the family too. And I will tell you, Millie and Mac have a very typical sibling dynamic. They're obviously the two with non-speaking autism, but if Millie has something, Mac wants it. He doesn't ever want that, ever.
Right.
And there's so many things that I get to see this from a vantage point that not many mothers get to see with having two, and a boy and a girl, and separated in age and not twins and all these things. They are so typical. There's some things that are so typical that it does remind me to pull back, go, this is not profound autism. This is not what people say is like the diagnosis or the IDD or anything. Nope. They are 1000% siblings right now.
Yeah. And it's so cool to see.
It is. It's such a cool thing to see. And it lights me up, and it gives me such joy when he takes something of hers and she sometimes uses her device and she'll go frustrated.
I love it. Over and over and over.
Over and over. Yeah. Like annoyed, frustrated.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's your brother. Yeah.
Right. Clearly communicating, both of you at this point in time.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So you mentioned at the very beginning when you were talking about, you early on moved to New York, you had, your goals. I can identify as an oldest child, that driven personality and all of it. And so how has having your kids, Mac and Millie, changed you from that person, graduating, going, having these goals to now?
I think that it allowed me to realize my own critical points of, I had so many points of failure, like built up in my head of like, if this doesn't happen, then this is a failure. If I don't do this, this means I'm failing. If this doesn't happen on a certain timeline for my own life, what does that say about me as a person? What does that say about my identity? And becoming a mother to Millie and Mac, I know so deeply has happened for me because it has peeled back the layer of realizing that my worth as a individual, the skills that I have, and the human that I was always meant to be have been revealed through having them. I really, really deeply believe it. And I don't mean to say that in a sugar-coated, syrupy, sappy way, because it's hard. It's so hard. And, when I'm dropping my oldest off at competitive basketball camp this morning after her siblings have been gone for an hour and a half already. That I feel that tension of what I thought my life was going to be, and what my life has revealed to me consistently is exponentially better than what I ever would have wanted. Because I think it took me becoming a mother of children like Millie and Mac to reveal the depth of what my skill set was. I don't think I would have jumped so deeply into the ocean of my own possibility and my own strength had it not been for them. And I always say it's like two little blonde toe-headed kids wrapped up in a Mack truck with a pink and blue bow on it, right? And I stood there and took it. And that has been it's the greatest lesson of my life. And I think if parents can get quiet enough, I do think that the majority would say that this revealed something and a strength in them that they never realized they ever had.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
Yeah.
Working with so many parents at different points in time
Mm-hmm.
on their autism journey, I would absolutely agree with that. And that, they experience so many things and come out the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And, just hearing you say this, Sarah, I just sit here in awe because I don't know what that's like. I just know that there are going to be so many strong humans in this world because of the clients that I get to work with and to see how the world can be changed because of it in so many ways.
Well, and I thank you too, because I was speaking to someone yesterday and I said, there are so many people in my world that are not in the world. And the people that I love and I'm so thankful for the most are the ones that are like, if my life is my room, a bedroom or a living room, and there's a door, it's the Dana Johnsons, it's the massive amount of other people that, you and I know that are sitting right vigil and are listening so deeply and so intently. They can't know what's exactly on the other side of that door, but they are holding such beautiful vigil. And that to me is what I'm so thankful for practitioners like yourself, because not many people choose to get that close. And that takes a special person. So thank you for your work too.
Thank you. To finish off, I want to do a couple of rapid fire that I did not give you before because I love hearing the response. It's great to finish up. Okay, so
coffee,
my child,
yes, coffee. Okay, yes, coffee.
So think about this. You have two, so but my child or my children are not.
Oh, my children are not perfect. None of us
autism.
Are.
Oh,
sorry.
Okay. Autism has taught me
to let go.
Parents need less.
Ooh, you're going to catch me on that one. Parents need less internal expectations.
Mm-hmm. Parents need more.
Community support.
Mm-hmm. I wish strangers understood
that their curiosity isn't wrong.
Mm. And the last one, the biggest lie parents believe is
their life is over.
Awesome. So good.
You caught
Sarah.
me there. Whew.
I know. Well, and I had like a whole bunch of them and I'm like, okay, so based on this conversation, and then I'm kind of and I love it. I listen to a ton of different podcasts of all different, genres. And it's so interesting to me when they do like a rapid fire kind of thing to really get, because they're not prepped then, right? And it's like on the fly. And I'm all about, on the fly pivoting, and that's autism parents as well. And so I'm like, oh, it'll be fine. We'll just throw it in there and see what happens. So thank you.
I like
you
it.
didn't and I knew you wouldn't. You're great.
Awesome.
Great.
Awesome.
So good, Sarah. Thank you so much. I'm grateful for your time. I'm grateful for just everything that you shared. And yes, is there anything else? I just want to let people know where they can find you.
Right.
I'll include this all in the show notes at the end, but definitely let people know where they can reach out.
Right. Yeah. So, INCHSTONES is the mission and the founding name for this. So if you do INCHSTONES and put Sarah, or INCHSTONES by Sarah or INCHSTONES with Sarah, I will pop up. But the website is www.inchstones.co. And it has everything on there from my IEP consulting services to my keynote speaking to the podcast to the Substack, and links to the Instagram, which I share more of those little smallest wins and reminders that I think really keep a lot of the population that I serve floating. So that's where you can find me, and all that can be on my website.
Now, I want to thank Sarah for this conversation, for her honesty, and for reminding us all that connection looks different for every single family. And that's not just okay, it's actually beautiful. To everyone listening, if this episode moved you, please share it with another parent who needs to hear it today. And you can find Sarah and everything she offers, from IEP consulting to her Substack, at INCHSTONES.co. I will include all the links in the show notes. Thanks for listening, and I will see you on the next one. Thank you for spending time with us today. You can learn more about me and how I work with families at drdanajohnson.com. You can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Dr. Dana Johnson. And don't forget to check out YouTube, where I have more educational videos. If you'd like to learn more about spelling as a method of communication, head to spellers.com, and never underestimate the difference that you're making.